his son-in-law, Kushner, was speaking about building villas and mansions on the Gaza beach. How are you going to do that? And we have 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza. So the whole idea that they have is to push Palestinians out of Gaza and give those beachfront properties that he called very expensive properties, give them to some Israeli and American investors and build villas and mansions in Gaza and get rid of all the Palestinians there.
The Israeli occupation crimes against the Palestinians, whether in Gaza or the West Bank, are going on with full American support and no sign of change in the American administration position, sending more weapons and providing more money to Netanyahu's government. If the elections in the United States come with a different outcome and Kamala Harris wins these elections, shall we see a change in the American foreign policy? Shall the American administration pressure the Israeli occupation Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop his genocidal campaign against the Palestinians? To answer these questions, I have with me Palestinian American activist of the Democratic Party, Mr. Imad Salem. Great honor to have you on our program, Mr. Imad.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Osama.
You're welcome. Before we talk about the American elections and the policy of the Democratic Party, we are all watching what's happening whether in Gaza or in the West Bank, as Israel is killing hundreds in Gaza every day, and just today in the northern part of the West Bank, Tubas and Tamun killed 5 Palestinians and injured many others. As a Palestinian American activist in the Democratic Party, when you see such crimes in your homeland, Palestine, tell me about your feeling while the Americans provide weapons to Israel.
It is heartbreaking to see what is going on, whether in Gaza or the West Bank. We really push our elected officials as much as we can here in Texas and in the USA to show empathy for the Palestinian people on one side, and on the other side to push the administration to be on the right side of history and to stand up and support the Palestinians. The human rights and political rights that the Palestinian people have been fighting for the last 100 years. We have gained support from a lot of people, but unfortunately the administration still being under pressure by the Israeli lobby, and we have a whole lot of work to go on and do it and push the administration to do more.
Yeah, so the American administration does not have any change in its policy towards the Palestinians. We are talking about 10 to 11 months of genocidal acts on everyday basis by Israel against the Palestinians. And you say because of the Zionist lobby, a pressure on the administration. So if Harris wins the American elections and becomes the president of the United States, what change would happen?
Well, we have seen that she is willing and ready to listen to the activists and to the community. We have pressured her. The first thing is to choose the right vice president that will run with her on the same ticket. And she listened and she chose Governor Walz of Minnesota, even though there was a lot of pressure on her to choose the governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro, but she listened to the grassroots, she listened to us, and I was one of those people who sent a letter to her along with other progressives asking her to choose Governor Walz, and she listened to us and she chose Governor Walz. The other thing is the way she has been learning and changing her tone when it comes to people interrupting or disrupting her speeches. Yeah. The first time she said something people criticized her for, the second time she got better, and it seems like she is listening to the grassroots and to people.
Yeah, but Mr. Ahmad, we don't want to forget that she is now the vice president and she must have an impact on his policy, but we see nothing. Why do you think?
Well, the issue is the vice president of the United States does not change or draw or help with policies. The vice president is someone who just sits in their headquarters in case something happened to the president. That's one thing. And the other thing is the president himself delegates responsibilities to the vice president. And this is not something that she is delegated. I think the only thing that President Biden gave her to work on is the border issue. And she has spoken on the border multiple times. So I cannot blame her for not doing anything for Gaza because she has no control over policy.
Yeah, I feel, Mr. Imad, that you are optimistic about the voice of the progressives in the Democratic Party, though the campaign by the AIPAC and the Zionist lobby against them is very harsh. And you know that the AIPAC spent $25 million to take down Bowman in New York and Curry in Missouri, I think. So would this campaign also affect Harris? How much danger does that pose to her?
I mean, the AIPAC is a huge lobby with a lot of money, with tens of millions of dollars, and they've been targeting all these progressives, and unfortunately they were able to win in New York and also in Missouri. But yesterday Ilhan Omar in Minnesota won, and they were unable to unseat her like they did the last couple of candidates or last elected officials. Now the AIPAC will continue to push to as much as they can to make sure that Israel is protected, Israel gets all the military aid and support of the United Nations from the US. And of course, we on the other side, it is our job to continue to push and make sure that the administration stands on the right side of history and they support the Palestinian people and come forward and be human rights activists, human rights supporters, and give justice to the Palestinian people.
Yeah. Mr. Ahmad, we said that the AIPAC spent $25 million just to take down Bowman and Curry, and they have a lot of campaigns, a lot of plans in order to have their own people and their own voices in the Congress. Now, against that, what do the Palestinian, the Arab, Muslim, and the activists who support the human rights and justice for Palestine, what do they do in order to have more voices on the right side of history, as you say, in the Congress?
I have, in the last 10 months, since the genocide on Gaza started, I have seen multiple political action committees being formed in this country, multiples. I mean, the last one was CARE Action, the Council on American Islamic Relations, PAC. They just created one and they raised a lot of money. And I am hopeful they will be working with progressives, like they said at their event that I attended myself when they raised the money to start this new PAC. They want to support progressives, and I expect they will be working very hard to support all congressional members. On the other side, there are other political action committees that have been formed, and they are active, some of them in supporting the candidates by getting out the vote or for banking or block walking for them, and others is by donating to these campaigns. So there are multiple PACs that have been created. The other thing that gives hope is the new generation, which we call here Gen Zs or Generation Z, and those are the young people 18 to 25.
Yeah.
They have been really fighting on the streets. They have been blocking highways like we saw yesterday in California. They blocked an interstate highway to bring attention to the Palestinian cause and to pressure the administration to for an embargo on Israel and not to send any more military weapons to Israel. Some of these activists are Gen Zs or just regular people who see what is going on. They see the genocide. And the other group of people that I was impressed by what they have done is an organization called Jewish Voice for Peace. This organization has been protesting all over the United States. They have protested in Manhattan, in New York, in Washington, D.C., at the Capitol building, Grand Central Station. They blocked it a few months ago in California. So there are groups all over the country that are protesting, and that give us hope, because it's showing people see what is going on. People see the genocide and the killing going on in Gaza, and they feel obligated. They have to stand up and support the Palestinian people.
Yeah, and in the same context, Mr. Ahmad, you're talking about the grassroots, the young people, the activists in support of the Palestinians' rights. Now, do you have, I'm talking as Palestinian Arab community in the United States, interested in politics, do you have a plan or a certain program through which you can affect the American foreign policy if Harris wins the coming elections?
There are a lot of people who work on the national stage, and some people work on the local. I do mostly myself work in Texas. So from Texas, we try to affect the local and the state and the national policy as much as we can. There are groups that work on the national stage that are in contact with the administration all the time, and they try to affect their policy. In addition to that, there are Palestinian Americans and Muslims and Arab Americans that work in the administration, in the White House, at the State Department. And I stay in touch with these people, and they are working very hard to make sure that they make the changes that are needed. I am hopeful they will be able to make some changes that will affect the policy of the administration in Palestine.
Yeah, Mr. Ahmad, the Democrats' chances of winning are looking a bit less dismal since Joe Biden dropped out and endorsed Harris. But still, the Trump team is very strong, and the difference between him and Harris is very slight. If Trump wins, how do you think the political situation is going to be here? I mean, in Palestine, because he recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel during his previous term. Do you think that this time he is going to give Israel the green light to annex all of the West Bank?
From what I heard, that's his plan.
Yeah.
And, the Sheldon Adelson wife just gave his campaign $100 million under the assumption that if he wins, he will accept that Israel will annex the whole West Bank. The other thing is his son-in-law, Kushner, was speaking about building villas and mansions on the Gaza beach. How are you going to do that? And we have 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza. So the whole idea that they have is to push Palestinians out of Gaza and give those beachfront properties that he called very expensive properties, give them to some Israeli and American investors and build villas and mansions in Gaza and get rid of all the Palestinians there. This is, of course, something I do not think they will be able to accomplish, because the Palestinian people in Gaza are steadfast and they are not going anywhere.
Yes.
This is the plan that Trump is having, and it seems like Israel is ready to annex the West Bank. I see the way they have built in more and more settlements and taking more and more, confiscating more and more lands, and in the Mantika, in the Ghor, by the river, or in northern West Bank, or in
Jerusalem, everywhere.
in, yes, yes, I've heard all about the new settlements that they just made them legal. The Israeli government, this right-wing extremist Israeli government, I think it is the worst government in Israel history. That doesn't mean the other ones are excellent, but this is the worst for sure.
Yeah, sure. My final question to you, Mr. Imad, you talked about the Trump's plan. Now, the supporters of the two-state solution, and I know that it is a mantra now because nothing is achieved on the ground, but the people who support peace in the region and the Palestinian community in the United States, do you have a counter plan in order to resist Trump's attitudes towards the Palestinian cause if he wins the elections?
Well, we're hoping he will not win.
We hope.
Yeah, look, we're looking at the new ticket. It looks good. People are excited that Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee. And Governor Walz of Minnesota, he has excellent relations with the Muslim community and the Arab community in Minnesota. So I am hoping, and we are pushing both of them to come forward and say more things in support of the Palestinian people, you know, to make sure that they push for ceasefire. Hopefully they could push for an embargo or conditioning U.S. military aid on Israel. And I think if they do that, and that's what we push for right now, if they do that, then hopefully the Palestinian, the Muslim community, the Gen Zs, African Americans, everyone will come out and vote for Kamala Harris. And she will be the first woman president in the history of the United States. And I am hoping her administration will do a better job than Biden's currently, and definitely better than Trump.
Imad Salem, Palestinian American Democratic Party activist. A great honor having you on our program. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And from me, Osama Nazal, have a nice time.